Welcome to our article of the week for the week of April 21st. The title of the article is The Race for a Coronavirus Vaccine. The source is theweek.com, and this is a little bit dated April 5th, 2020, but I am really interested in a coronavirus vaccine. Researchers are working frantically on a shot that would immunize people against COVID-19. Why does it take so long? Here's everything you need to know. So I'm going to read each section and ask a question, and then you can pause the video and answer the question for your annotations, or you can take notes for your annotations on your own. But sometimes in class, I would ask you questions for your annotations. Your annotations can go on a separate sheet of paper on a Google Doc, and that's fine. Section 1, is a vaccine close? Despite the global competition to develop a coronavirus vaccine, experts agree one won't be available for at least 12 to 18 months. The race kicked off January 10th when Chinese scientists published a complete 30,000-letter genetic code of SARS-CoV-2, the novel coronavirus that causes COVID-19. That allowed scientists to make synthetic versions of the virus rather than waiting for sample shipments. And roughly 80 pharma giants, small labs, and government entities began chasing a cure. Moderna, a biotech startup in Cambridge, Massachusetts, produced a vaccine candidate that was injected into the arm of a 43-year-old Seattle mother in mid-March, smashing the world record for fastest human testing. Several other labs have since launched clinical trials. President Trump pledged to slash red tape, slowing development, but scientists say it's not bureaucracy or pointless rules that make his request for a vaccine by summertime impossible. All right, for your annotation, answer one of these questions. First of all, here it says that 80 pharma giants, those are like big pharmaceutical companies, small labs and government entities began chasing a cure. If they're all chasing the same cure, it's like a competition. So my question to you is, do you think it's a good idea to have a competition to see who gets the vaccine first? Why or why not? Another question that you could answer for your annotation for this section, they tested right away on a 43-year-old Seattle mother. Would you volunteer to be tested for a vaccine for coronavirus when you know that part of the coronavirus is inserted into you to create antibodies? So go ahead and pause here and answer one of those questions. And if you need to hear the question again, rewind. All right, part 2. What's the holdup? Before injecting a vaccine into millions of people, scientists need to conduct tests to prove that it actually protects against a specific pathogen and doesn't have serious side effects. Under normal circumstances, a vaccine can take a decade to get FDA approval. Coronavirus research is racing along, thanks largely to the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovations, CEPI, a Norwegian-based organization founded in 2017 to help labs like Moderna plan for prototype pathogens. Yet, although scientists are desperate to save lives, cutting corners could have treacherous consequences. Extremely ill patients can get unproven treatments under compassionate use exceptions, but vaccines are administered to people before they get sick. A vaccine for swine flu in 1976 gave hundreds of people a rare nerve disorder, and a vaccine for H1N1 bird flu in 2009 caused some Europeans to develop narcolepsy. Narcolepsy is when you just randomly fall asleep. I know there's a more technical term for that, but I had a friend in college who had that. It's interesting. Some failed vaccines have made recipients more vulnerable to the disease. A candidate vaccine for SARS was abandoned after it made mice more likely to die. So for your annotation, this is a list of all the really negative things for vaccinations. So how do we answer this question? What's the holdup? Why do you think they are taking their time in making this vaccination? Go ahead and pause and write your annotation. And when you're ready, turn back on. All right, part 3. How is a vaccine created? There are no existing vaccines for coronaviruses, but new technology is accelerating the process. 3 hours after China published the COVID-19 genome, Innovio Pharmaceuticals in San Diego used a computer algorithm to produce a vaccine blueprint. Preventative vaccines use dead or weakened pathogens to prime the immune system to fight diseases. In the case of COVID-19, by teaching it to recognize the coronavirus protein spikes that latch onto cells. That recognition cues white blood cells to produce antibodies that can fight a real infection. Moderna is pursuing an original approach, injecting messenger RNA, mRNA, molecules that encode instructions for building coronavirus-like proteins, so they can be recognized as foreign threats. So for your annotation, do you understand any of this chemistry talk that's going on? Because I didn't do so well in chemistry, and it's going over my head. What do you think about the chemistry of this? Go ahead and pause, annotate, and join me again. All right, next part. How long will testing take? Clinical trials usually occur in 3 phases. First, about 50 healthy human volunteers are paid $1,100 each to be injected with a candidate vaccine, and then monitored to see if they produce antibodies without unintended side effects. If that's successful, a few hundred people get the vaccine, and their immune response and side effects are carefully studied. In phase 3, several thousand people are tested. Half get the vaccine, half get a placebo. A placebo is usually a sugar pill or water, so people think they got a cure, but they really didn't, to see if it's the mind playing the tricks or not. If vaccinated subjects don't get sick or get sick at much lower rates, the vaccine is ready for FDA approval. This can take 8 to 12 months. If and when a coronavirus vaccine is approved, other problems immediately arise. Who gets it first? And who pays for the vaccinations if people are uninsured? Manufacturing billions of vaccine doses will take months, and rich nations could hoard limited supplies. Vaccinating every American could cost $165 billion, time estimates. So your question for your annotation here, now that you know more information about the side effects and what could happen and how all these things happen, would you volunteer to be in a clinical trial for a vaccination? Or this question about who gets the vaccination, who gets it first? Is it just the rich people? Or should we have a plan to make sure that all people have an equal chance of getting the vaccination? Go ahead and pause the video and write your annotation. All right, next section. What are the top contenders? Some of the most promising vaccines build on proven science. Janssen, the Belgian pharmaceutical subsidiary of Johnson & Johnson, is developing a vaccine modeled on the successful vaccine for Ebola. Inovio, the San Diego-based company, and Maryland-based Novavax are modeling vaccines on candidates in advanced trials for MERS, a coronavirus disease similar to COVID-19. In China, 1,000 scientists are working on a vaccine and launching more than 200 clinical trials to test everything from anti-flu drugs to ancient Chinese herbal medicine. Moderna's mRNA approach is also being used by the German company CureVac. German government officials accuse Trump of trying to poach CureVac scientists and their intellectual property for the exclusive use of the United States. So for your annotation, how do you feel about this accusation? German government officials accuse Trump of trying to poach CureVac scientists and their intellectual property for the exclusive use of the United States. Poach meaning take their scientists and what they discovered for only the United States to use. What are your thoughts and feelings on that? Go ahead and pause the video, answer your question. All right, next section. What's a realistic timeline? There are dozens of vaccines in the pipeline, but COVID-19 cases are expected to peak in the United States months before any of them is approved. Scientists raced to find vaccines for SARS in the early 2000s and MERS in 2012, only to shelve their work when those outbreaks were contained. Experts have grimmer expectations for the longevity of coronavirus, meaning a vaccine ready a year from now could still save many millions of lives. With a large number of people getting sick and dying, the race for a vaccine requires a painful amount of patience. I'm going to bed thinking we made some progress, Moderna President Stephen Hoge says, and waking up every morning feeling further and further behind. For your annotation, this paragraph reveals that COVID-19 is going to last a lot longer than some of these other scary outbreaks. How do you feel about that? What are your thoughts? Go ahead and pause the video. And our final section, promising treatments. A treatment that lessens the impact of COVID-19 is expected to come before a vaccine, but doctors on the front lines warn against high hopes. We have no idea what works or what does not at this point, says Andre Khalil, an infectious disease physician at the University of Nebraska Medical Center. Khalil is leading U.S. clinical trials for one of the most promising treatments, the antiviral drug remdesivir, which was developed for Ebola. In February, an American passenger on the Diamond Princess cruise ship who contracted coronavirus after the ship docked in Japan became Khalil's first volunteer. Other antivirals being researched are already in use for HIV and malaria. Other tests focus on drugs for lung inflammations and antibody-based treatments, including using antibody-rich blood serum taken from coronavirus survivors. A survivor can spare enough serum for 1 to 10 people. A Johns Hopkins University team got FDA approval in mid-March to test this approach. This is real, team leader Arturo Casadeval says. In 8 weeks, we may have something that's useful. All right. So I guess for this last annotation, you've gotten a lot of scientific information. I know I am really super grateful for scientists who can do these amazing things that I could never do because my brain doesn't work that way. So what do you think about the scientists that are doing all of these clinical tests for us? All right, once you have your annotations, either take a picture of them or send them to me digitally or copy them into your dialogue journal. That's for part of your 10 points for your annotations, and then for 15 points you have response. As always, these possible response questions are here for you. What are your thoughts about the race for the corona vaccine? Explain. That's really super broad. You could instead pick something more focused, like the whole equity issue, like who gets the vaccine, who doesn't get the vaccine. Is it just for the United States? What about people who can't afford the vaccine? How might the United States make this fair? Or you could talk about clinical trials and testing and that. Or if you are just interested in responding to how you're feeling about the coronavirus right now and the timeline, what does this mean for us if it's going to take a little bit longer for us to get the vaccine? What does that mean for how we live our lives until we have been vaccinated? I hope you all are doing well. I miss you. Go ahead and upload your response and annotations or put them in your dialogue journal, and I will see you later. Bye.